All right, so today what we're going to be working on is completing the square intro. So if you would please, if you cannot see, let's see here. If you can't see this right here, I'm going to move this up a little bit. See if it'll work. Oh well, okay. Right here, if you would please put x squared minus 4x plus and open up a box. When you're completing the square, I want you guys to think of standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, and technically you could also say equals 0 if you want to say equals 0. All right, now when you're completing the square, it's very, very important that you have the a value as 1. So the first thing, a must be equal to 1. That's super important. So make sure you write that down in your journals. You could put, hey, must, if you want to, must happen. A has to equal 1. And we do have a 1 here. Okay. So what is our a value? If I said, what's our a value? We would say 1. And what's our b value? -4. What we're going to do is we're going to find our c value. Okay. Now I'm going to make a little formula right here, all right, for c. So this is what the c value will always equal whenever you are completing the square when your a value is a 1. Okay. Here's what you got to do. Put an open parentheses. It's whatever your b value is divided by 2 squared. In words, here's what you would do. Step 1, just write this down. Take half your b value. Step 1, whatever your b value is, take half of it. Step 2, square your result. So take half your b value and square your result. So check this out. What is my b value? -4. What am I going to do? Take half of it. And what is half of that? -2. And what am I going to do? I'm going to square it. Well, what's -2 times -2? +4. So my c value is a +4 for that. Now, let me tell you why we need to do that. Okay? So I'm going to go down here. If we have x squared minus 4x plus 4, now this factors to x minus 2 times x minus 2, and now we have what's called a perfect square binomial. The reason we had to have a 4, I got to slide up a little bit. The reason why I had to have a 4 is that creates what's called a perfect square binomial. So now we have x minus 2 squared. So what am I going to put in my little answer right here? What's the missing constant in the perfect square that starts with that? It's a 4. So I'm going to type in a 4. Now the first one I was going pretty slow. Okay, so I'm going to walk over here, type in a 4. Got to go to my computer because I'm walking around the room. 4. Boom. This one's going to go a little bit faster, okay? We can take a look at this and go, hey, what's half that? What's half 2? 1. What's 1 squared? What's 1 times 1? 1. Now, this is the math behind it, guys. Here's the math behind it, okay? If I have x squared plus 2x, and I say that's equal to a 1, this is why I need it to be 1. Because when I want to be able to factor it, and I want to factor it as x plus 1 times x plus 1, because 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1, so that factors to x plus 1 squared. So that's why this number has to be the number 1. It's got to be half that number squared. Okay? Let's do another one. What's half of 18? Half of 18 is 9. So I'll just kind of do the work here. Ready? So I take 18, I take half of it, and then I square it. Half of that is 9. 9 squared is 81. So this constant's going to be the number 81. Well, why does it need to be 81? This is the hopefully the reinforcement of why this works. In order for this to be a perfect square binomial, I got to get it to factor to x plus 9 times x plus 9, which is x plus 9 squared. That's why this number has to be in 81. All right. So here's what you guys could do in your journals right now. You guys ready? If you have a x squared plus bx plus c, and you have what's called a perfect square trinomial, it's going to be a x squared plus bx plus whatever the heck b divided by 2 squared is. So this is kind of what we've been working on over the last few minutes. It's this c value. All right, this c value will always equal half your b value doing what? Being squared. Okay, and yes, please use parentheses. If you don't use parentheses, then the negatives won't cancel out and it'll stay a negative, and it's always going to be, by the way, this number is always going to be positive no matter what. You're never going to get a negative number when you square it because it's always going to be positive. So please use parentheses when you do this. Okay, I'm going to pause the video, let my students get caught up, and we'll go on to the next part. Okay, so now we're moving on to what's called completing the square intermediate. All right, so what I'd like you to do is in your journal, make sure you title it, this is the intermediate one, okay? So I don't know if you guys can see it, so I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger here. It says x squared plus 16x plus 64 equals 0. And then you got a parentheses, you have an x plus an empty box where we're gonna fill that in with a number. And then we're gonna fill this in with a number. So let's give you have that one? Good. Yeah, all right. I have a student who has that one. We're going to work through the steps, okay, like of what we would do. Now this guy is right here. Check this out. This guy right here has actually been like you can factor it already. Like it actually is a perfect square binomial. Sorry, trinomial. So check this number out. See that b value? What is half that b value? 8. What's 8 squared? 64. So this actually factors, guys. This actually factors to x plus 8 times x plus 8. So step one, I want you to factor. In this one, the first thing we need to do is we need to factor this. So right underneath, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, ready? X plus 8 times x plus 8 equals 0. Now, what is x? I'm sorry? Right. So this right here becomes x plus 8 squared equals 0. So the number that I'm going to put right here is in 8, and the number I'm going to put right here is a 0 for mine. Now, I'm going to do more than one because they're not all like this, okay? So understand, this literally is, if I took half the b value and I squared it, what is 16 divided by 2? It's equal to 8. What's 8 squared equal to? 64. So I knew I could factor this to a perfect square trinomial. All right, so all I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to type in an 8 and a 0. So right over here, I'm going to type in an 8 and a 0. Okay, now guys, this one is not the same. This one's more complicated. So this one, I want you guys, this is going to be this is the problem that's going to really reinforce how to do this, okay? So right now it says we need to rewrite everything as basically, we're going to vertex form is what we're doing in this quadratic. But we gotta do it by completing the square. So I'm gonna start it out nice and slow. I'm gonna write down our original quadratic, which is f of x equals x squared minus 12x minus 29. Now everybody, this is in what's called standard form. So if you would please put ax squared plus bx plus c. So that's in standard form. I'm gonna go and pause to make sure my students have time to catch up. All right, so step one, to make it a little bit easier, just change this to y. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put a little empty box right here, and that negative 29, put it over here at the end. Put it over here at the end, and then put an empty box right here. Because what we're going to do is right here, this is going to be called our C value, and right here, this is going to be called our C value for where we're going to complete the square. So put empty box plus y equals x squared minus 12x plus a space to put your C value. Because whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do on the other side of the equal sign. All right? So that's step one. Step two, complete the square. All right? So how do we complete this square? I'm going to write down so and over here. Complete the square. So what is our b value right there? Our b value is what? Negative 12. So I'm going to take negative 12. I'm going to take half of it, and I'm going to square it. So what is negative 6 squared? A positive what? A positive 36. So whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So I want to make sure everybody understands our C value. How did we find our C value? We took our B value, we divided it by 2, and we squared it. So in this particular case, we took negative 12 divided by 2, which ends up becoming a negative 6, and then we squared it, and that's how I got the 36. All right? Now, check this out. This is where you're like, I see it. So what I want you, I don't know if you can do this. You could put like a box around it or highlight it, but check that whole, this is a perfect square trinomial. So check this out. I'm going to put 36 plus y equals x squared minus 12x plus 36. But be careful. I want you guys to put the box or highlight this area because this is what we have to factor. So this is very easily factorable. What is that guy? What does he factor to? X minus 6 and x minus 6. By the way, the shortcut is this. This always factors to half that number. Whatever that number is, you take half of it, that's what you're going to have 2 of. That's the whole purpose of completing the square. As you know, in a square, guys, what's special about a square? All the sides are equal. Well, in perfect square trinomials, your 2 sides are equal. Your 2 factors are the same. So this becomes, you guys ready? This becomes x minus 6 squared. So here we go. 36 plus y equals x minus 6 squared minus 29. We are almost done. Like we got literally one more step and we're done. All right? We're like at the finish line. All right? So let's don't quit on me now. We're at the finish line. The very last step is literally just to take away a 36 from this side and to take away a 36 from this side. So in the Khan Academy, I'm just going to change it back to f of x since it's function notation. F of x equals x minus 6 squared minus 65. Now, let's say you spent a lot of time, you worked really hard, you want to make sure that you got it correct. I want to make sure you guys know how to type it into Desmos so that you can check your answers because hopefully this will also make sense. Like, okay, I see how these are the same exact quadratic. So can you guys help me out? You have this in your journals, okay? Let's take a look at the original equation, okay, right there. So let's go over here. I'm going to go to, let's see, Desmos right here. Let me go to, move that down just a bit. Let me go to Desmos. Now our original equation, hold on, was y, I'll put y equals, it was x squared minus 12x minus 29. That was our original equation, okay? But our new equation, I'm just using y equals instead of f of x, okay? It was y equals parentheses x minus 6 squared minus, what did we say, 65? Now check this out. I'm going to zoom out. I want you to check. Look. Do you see how they're the exact same? This gives us our vertex. This gives us our y-intercept. There's our y-intercept. This form gives you your y-intercept. That gives you your vertex. And where would our vertex be? At a 6 and a negative 65. Okay? But which gives me pretty good, like, now, see where it says plus? Yeah, you got to put in minus. Like, you got to put, yeah, you got to put in that -6. Okay, so remember, it's not now. If it was +6, then it would be a -6 as the vertex. So you have to put in that -6. So be mindful of that. And right here, I got to put in a -65. Okay, so this one I'm gonna go over. I'm just gonna go over a little bit faster. Okay, we'll do one more, and then I'll let you guys go ahead and work on this. All right, we'll go a little bit faster here. So here we go. F of x equals x squared plus 6x plus 87. There we go. Just write that down nice and neat. You'll see how fast this one goes in comparison to the other one if you just stay with me here. Okay, I'll pause real quick. All right, first step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put empty box plus y equals, that's an equal sign there, equals x squared plus 6x plus empty box plus an 87. I realize it's not a box, it's a square or a rectangle, or I'm just putting like an empty space, okay? That's the first step. The next step is I look at my b value and I say, hey, you're 6. I'm going to take you, I'm going to take half that baby, and I'm going to square it. Well, what is 3 squared? 3 squared is 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to put a 9 there. I'm going to put a 9 there. So what are we doing? Once again, what are we doing? This number is what? Always whatever the b value is divided by 2 squared. Okay, we're almost done. So here we go. We've got a 9. Oh, that's too dark for that. Too dark. Just too dark. I'm changing it to green. All right, so we have a 9 plus y equals, bless you, x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus an 87 way over here. But do not combine those, okay? The whole purpose of this was to get this guy. You see him? Which is right here. So what do we do with that guy? We have to do what with him? We have to factor him. It's always easy to factor because it's always half that number. What's half that number? 3. So we know, here's the shortcut. We know it's going to be x plus 3 squared. It's going to be x plus 3 squared. So this is the connection I'd like you guys to make. I'd like you guys to be able to go from here to here. So that's the connection I want. Instead of doing x plus 3 times x plus 3, I'd like you to just make it x plus 3 squared. Okay? What would be our final step? What do you guys think for the people in my class right now? Got one more step. Do what? Yeah, that's it. Take away a 9. Take away a 9, we're done. So our final answer for this one would be f of x equals x plus 3 squared. And 87 minus a 9 gets me to a, what do we got? 78? Is that right? No. Yeah. All right, 78. All right. So this is gonna that's what I'm gonna type in. Okay. Now, if I said, hey, what's our vertex? What would the h and the k value be for this guy? If I said this quick little review, -3 and set. Remember, so it's like, all right. So basically whatever makes that equal to 0 and that number. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go type that in. See how we did. I'm also gonna type it in to Desmos. Hopefully that'll reinforce how we did it. Okay. So right here, this was what? That was a 3. And what was that? That was ended up being a what? A 78. But if we wanted to check it in Desmos, up here, I could put plus 3 plus 78, and then I put the original. And what was the original equation on that one? It was plus 6x plus, was it plus 87? So notice we can't see anything, can we? So I got to zoom out until I find it. Now, check this out. Do these perfectly line up with each other? So that lets me know that I did it correctly. All right. All right. Now, you guys can go ahead and start working. I'm going to do one more in case you guys get one of these. All right. I'm going to do one more. And this is the final one that I'm going to do. Okay. So you don't have to do this with me. You can go ahead and get to work if you want to. So I have x squared plus 16x plus 63 equals 0. So here's what I'm going to do. The very first step that I do when I have this guy equal to 0, you'll notice this is not a perfect square trinomial, is it? Because what's half of 16? 8. What's 8 times 8? 64. So this is not a perfect square trinomial. So what I'm going to have to do on this guy is I literally have to take away a 63, take away a 63. So here's what I have left. X squared plus 16x. I'm going to put a place to complete my square equals negative 63 plus a place to complete my square. All right. So once again, I'm going to take that 16. I'm going to take half of it, and I'm going to square it. Well, what's half of him? Half of him is 8. 8 squared is 64. So I put a 64 on both sides. At this point, hopefully you guys know how to factor this. Right here, it's going to be super easy to factor. He becomes x plus 8 squared, and negative 63 plus 64 equals the number 1. And there's my answer right there. Just so you know how I get the 1, I added those together and I got 1. So what is my final answer right up here? I'm going to put an 8. I'm going to put a 1. So here, this guy became an 8. This guy became a 1. Now here's kind of a cool little trick, so you know if you did it right. You see how it says x squared plus 16x? You know that this is always going to have to be half that number. So you know that number every single time. It's just going to be half whatever that b value is. What you have to do is you got to work it out to figure out what number goes over here. Okay? So you got to complete the square like I did here to get this number. But I got an 8 and a 1. I'll type them in so you know what I'm saying is true and it is not a lie. That's the great thing about being a math teacher is I can always prove and justify my results, and people don't argue with me. So nice. All right, there we go. Nice work. Go get 100 now. All right, have a good day.